In the quiet, wooded hills of Tennessee, where neighbors know each other by name and church bells punctuate Sunday mornings, a darkness was quietly forming behind the walls of an ordinary home. This is the story of Silvia Gabriella Vilchez, a woman who left her native Costa Rica in pursuit of the American dream, only to meet an unthinkable fate at the hands of those who should have loved and protected her. Silvia Gabriella Vilchez was 50 years old, known affectionately as Gabby to her friends and family. Silvia had long built a life thousands of miles away from her birthplace in Costa Rica. Like many immigrants, she had dreamed of opportunity and a better future in the United States. She settled in Lewis Chapel, a small rural community atop Lewis Chapel Mountain in Sequatchie County, Tennessee, a place where people wave to each other from their porches, where going to church on Sundays is part of life, and where violent crime is something believed to happen only elsewhere. Silvia was a valued member of her community. Well-liked by her neighbors and fellow church members, she was described as kind, generous, devoted, someone who always put others first. Someone who embodied the values small-town America takes pride in. Silvia lived in Graysville, Tennessee, with her husband, 64-year-old David Gardiner, and her 18-year-old son, Gabriel Vilchez. To the outside world, they appeared to be a normal, loving family. Neighbors later told investigators that David and Gabriel seemed close. On Tuesday, October 28, 2025, deputies from the Sequatchie County Sheriff's Office received a call that would set a horrifying chain of events into motion. Someone had reported concerns about Silvia's whereabouts. She disappeared without a trace, and her friends feared something bad had happened. Deputies were dispatched to her residence to conduct a welfare check. When deputies arrived, they were met by Silvia's husband, David, and her son, Gabriel. The officers asked a simple question, inquiring where Silvia was. Both men gave the same answer, saying that she was traveling and that she had gone to Costa Rica. On the surface, the explanation sounded plausible. Silvia was Costa Rican. A trip home to visit loved ones would not be unusual, but something didn't sit right with investigators. Detective Kaylee later noted in court documents that David and Gabriel's accounts did not match. Their timelines were inconsistent, their details conflicted, and their explanations felt rehearsed. Exactly the kind of red flags that experienced investigators are trained to detect. In the digital age, a phone is a map of its owner's life, pinging cell towers, connecting to networks, leaving a breadcrumb trail wherever it goes. When investigators checked the data for Silvia's phone, they uncovered something deeply alarming. The phone had never left her home. It wasn't pinging from Costa Rica, an airport, or anywhere else. Instead, it stayed at home. This discrepancy immediately pushed investigators to take decisive action. By Thursday, October 30, just 2 days after the initial call, investigators had secured the warrant and were prepared to search the Vilchez Gardiner home and the large wooded area behind it. What they uncovered would instantly transform the case from a disappearance into something far more sinister. When deputies entered the home, they quickly realized the residence was not a place where someone had simply packed a suitcase and left for a trip abroad. It was a crime scene. Something violent had unfolded inside those walls. The evidence spoke louder than words. According to the search warrant affidavit filed by Detective Kaylee, investigators found multiple red stains on the carpet, stains believed to be blood, and it wasn't limited to the floor. Red spatter marked the walls, streaked the side of a desk, and even dotted framed family photographs. The pattern and distribution of the blood made it clear that a brutal assault had taken place inside that home. Then investigators found the vacuum. A heavy-duty shop vac sat in the middle of the room, the type used in garages for deep cleanups. Inside, the canister was a pool of red liquid believed to be blood, indicating that someone had attempted to clean up after the violence. Nothing about the scene suggested that Silvia had voluntarily left the residence. Everything suggested that she had met violence, and the chances of her survival grew more unlikely by the hour. But the horror wasn't contained within the house. As deputies expanded the search to the large wooded area behind the home, they made a discovery that confirmed their worst fears and elevated the case into one of the most disturbing murders in Sequatchie County history. In a clearing behind the house, they found a burn pit. Inside the charred ashes were human remains, burned bone fragments. Searching deeper into the woods, investigators located additional skeletal fragments scattered beyond the pit. All recovered remains were transported to the Tennessee Medical Examiner's Office in Nashville for forensic examination and identification. The remains belonged to Silvia Gabriella Vilchez. With this discovery, the missing person investigation officially became a homicide. David Gardiner and 18-year-old Gabriel Vilchez, who had confidently told deputies days earlier that Silvia was traveling in Costa Rica, were immediately taken into custody and transported to the Sequatchie County Justice Center for questioning. What happened next stunned even veteran investigators. During a recorded interview, Gabriel confessed to murdering his mother. According to the arrest affidavits, Gabriel admitted to striking Silvia repeatedly with a baseball bat. But the confession included an even more horrifying detail. He claimed that his stepfather, 64-year-old David, stood by and watched as it happened. According to Gabriel's confession, after killing his mother, he and David dragged her body to the burn pit in the woods behind the home. There, they burned her remains. They attempted to destroy the evidence by incinerating Silvia's body, reducing her to ash and bone fragments, and scattering parts of her remains throughout the wooded area. It was an attempt to erase her, to make her disappear completely, to avoid ever being held accountable for what they had done. The Sequatchie County Sheriff later spoke to local media about the ongoing case, and even he, an officer with decades of experience, was utterly shocked by what the investigators had uncovered. Based on the evidence collected during the search and on Gabriel's confession, both he and David were formally charged with 2 serious felonies: criminal homicide and abuse of a corpse. In Tennessee, the improper handling or disposal of human remains is a separate crime. Burning Silvia's body and scattering what remained wasn't just an attempt to hide the evidence. It was a deeply degrading act that showed a chilling level of disregard for her humanity. Both were held at the Sequatchie County Justice Center while awaiting their first court appearances. During a hearing on Friday, November 1, a Sequatchie County judge denied bond for both David and Gabriel, ensuring that they would remain behind bars as the case advanced. The judge's decision indicated that he viewed them as potential flight risks and ongoing dangers to the community. The court then addressed the issue of legal counsel. Gabriel informed the judge that he could not afford an attorney and would require a public defender, leading to the appointment of Ted Engel to represent him. David initially claimed he believed he could afford private legal counsel and later retained Michael Dow, an attorney based in Dunlap, Tennessee. Assistant District Attorney Stephen Strain confirmed that a preliminary hearing for both defendants had been scheduled for December 8, 2025, at 10:00 a.m. This hearing would serve as a critical checkpoint in the case. During it, prosecutors would present the foundational details of their accusations, and a judge would determine whether there was probable cause to believe a crime had been committed. If probable cause was established, the case would be forwarded to a grand jury and could eventually proceed to trial. The news of Silvia Vilchez's murder sent shockwaves through Lewis Chapel. In a community where violence is rare, the idea that such a brutal killing had happened right in their midst was nearly impossible to grasp. Neighbors struggled to comprehend how something so monstrous could have been unfolding behind the closed doors of a seemingly ordinary family home. The shock echoed across the community. People who attended church with Silvia described her as compassionate and devoted, a woman who embodied the values the community cherished. Many neighbors said David and Gabriel had always seemed loving toward each other, with no outward signs of trouble or dysfunction. But behind the facade of a quiet, rural Tennessee home, Something dark had taken root, and Silvia Vilchez ultimately paid the price for it. In many murder cases, there's an obvious motive: money, jealousy, revenge, self-defense gone wrong. But in this case, the motive remains murky. Was there a history of abuse in the home that neighbors and friends never saw? Was there a specific incident or argument that led to the violence? Was Gabriel struggling with mental health issues that his family had been hiding? Was there some dark dynamic between David and his stepson that resulted in this deadly collaboration? These questions may be answered as the case proceeds through the legal system. More details may emerge during the preliminary hearing, during grand jury proceedings, or if the case goes to trial. Prosecutors may uncover text messages, emails, or other evidence that sheds light on what was happening inside that home. Mental health evaluations of Gabriel may reveal issues that contributed to the violence. But it's also possible that we'll never fully understand why this happened. Human behavior, especially violent behavior, is often complex and multifaceted. There may not be a simple explanation or a single motive that makes sense of such a senseless act. What we do know is that Silvia is gone, killed in a particularly brutal and callous manner by the two people who should have protected her most, her son and her husband. According to reports from Costa Rican media, Silvia left behind a daughter in Costa Rica. This young woman now faces an unimaginable tragedy. Not only has she lost her mother to murder, but the person accused of that murder is her own brother. Her family has been torn apart in the most violent and public way possible. For Silvia's daughter, there will be no more phone calls with her mother, no more visits during the holidays, no more advice or comfort when life gets hard. Her mother is gone, reduced to ashes. Beyond her daughter, Silvia likely had other family members and friends in Costa Rica who loved her and who are now grappling with this loss. People who perhaps encouraged her journey to the United States, who believed she was building a better life, who thought she was safe and happy in Tennessee. The ripple effects of murder extend far beyond the immediate crime scene. They touch everyone who knew and loved Silvia. As of now, Silvia is still in its early stages. Both men remain incarcerated at the Sequatchie County Justice Center, awaiting their preliminary hearing. The criminal justice system moves slowly, especially in murder cases. It could be months or even years before this case is fully resolved. There will be motions filed, hearings held, evidence presented, and witnesses called. The process is designed to be thorough and deliberate to ensure that justice is served and that the rights of all parties are protected. But while the legal process grinds forward, a community continues to grapple with what happened on Lewis Chapel Mountain. A daughter continues to grieve the loss of her mother. And the question of why this happened, why a son would kill his mother, and why a husband would allow it, continues to haunt everyone touched by this tragedy. The murder of Silvia is a stark reminder that evil can lurk anywhere, even in peaceful places. It reminds us that we can never truly know what happens behind closed doors, and that the faces people present may hide terrible secrets. Silvia came to the United States with hopes and dreams. She was, by all accounts, a good, kind person who cared about others and tried to be a positive presence in her community. Instead, her life was cut short in the most violent way at the hands of her own son, while her husband watched. As this case moves through the legal system, we hope justice will be served, that the full truth will come to light, that Gabriel Vilchez and David Gardiner will be held accountable, and that Silvia's memory will be honored. On December 8, 2025, the preliminary hearing in the Silvia Gabriella Vilchez case took place in Sequatchie County Court. The judge heard all the evidence presented, including Gabriel Vilchez's confession. He admitted to beating his mother to death with a baseball bat, while David Gardiner watched and later assisted in burning her body. In his second confession, Gabriel further stated that David not only watched but also participated in beating and helping to burn his mother's body. David Gardiner denied all charges, claiming he was asleep in his room at the time of the incident and knew nothing about it. After consideration, The judge concluded there was sufficient probable cause to believe that a crime had occurred and officially transferred the case to the grand jury for consideration of formal prosecution. Expected to take place in the early months of 2026, regarding bail, the judge made a noteworthy decision. David Gardiner was released on a $250,000 bond, meaning he could be released from jail if he paid the full amount or found a guarantor. Meanwhile, Gabriel Vilchez was denied bail entirely, as the court assessed him as a high risk of fleeing and having a prior history of aggravated assault in Marion County. Both remained detained at the Sequatchie County Justice Center while awaiting the grand jury's decision. During the hearing, new details were revealed that further clarified the brutality of the case. Silvia's phone was found submerged in the fish pond behind the house, where the family used to keep ornamental fish. Gabriel's testimony also confirmed that after killing his mother, the two dragged the body to the woods behind the house, burned it in a fire pit, and deliberately scattered some of the bones to conceal them. However, the official motive has yet to be clearly stated, leaving the community and family in Costa Rica shocked and questioning what truly happened in the seemingly peaceful home on Lewis Chapel Mountain. The case is currently awaiting grand jury, and everyone is closely watching to see whether the two defendants will face first-degree murder charges or retain their current charges.